Hello everyone, it's Hidesh. Today we'll be looking at a pretty famous shogi opening. It's Primitive Climbing Silver. The name of the strategy, Climbing Silver, is very well known. I'm sure most of you have heard about it before. And Climbing Silver is a very powerful strategy. The silver climbs up along the rook file very fast and destroys the enemy camp. So if you want to be good at playing shogi, you have to know how to deal with this really formidable strategy. And there are several types of climbing silver strategy, but what we're going to see here is White's primitive climbing silver strategy against Black's Yagura opening. And it can be categorized into rapid and counter Yagura openings. And this opening of primitive climbing silver against Yagura is one of the most violent but most famous and basic openings. So let's take a look at it from this initial position. So basically it starts from Yagura opening. So Black plays pawn to 7f first, and then White plays pawn to 8d. Silver 6h, pawn 3d, and 6f. So it's just the same as the basic Yagura opening, but from here it will branch off into primitive climbing silver. First, usually White extends the rook pawn up to 8e. If Black is playing Yagura, he'll move the silver to 7g. Well, if you move the bishop to 7g, it will be another opening. Maybe a ranging rook strategy on Black's side. But it's Yagura now, so silver to 7g. And then, here's the key move of climbing silver strategy. It's silver to 7b. Usually in Yagura game, White will develop his right silver to 6b, but when he wants to play climbing silver, he should move it to 7b. And alternatively, he can try not to show his intention of climbing silver. He may leave the silver there and move this gold, for instance. And in that case, Black should be still careful about primitive climbing silver, which means, just as I'm going to show you in this video, you should play gold to 7b or maybe pawn to 5f. And you should definitely not play these kind of moves, gold to 5h from the right or silver to 4h. Don't do this. And you're going to see why. If White is going to play primitive climbing silver, you should keep these two pieces there. Okay, so anyway, let's say White normally played silver to 7b, which is primary line of primitive climbing silver. So after seeing this move, as I said, you shouldn't move these metal pieces. Instead, I can just move the gold to 7b. So of course, silver goes ahead to 8c. And then you play pawn to 5f. Well, it doesn't matter. You can play pawn to 5f first and then gold. It's fine. So anyway, the silver keeps coming up to 8d. Okay, so one thing you have to learn here is don't try to stop the silver by pushing this pawn. Because that will just give White an opportunity to make an edge attack from putting up the pawn on knight d. And maybe later on, this kind of attack, and he breaks the edge. So against climbing silver, pushing the edge pawn is usually not very good. Okay, so what you should do here is this move, bishop to 7i. This move is necessary because if White keeps on going, silver to 9e, trying to make a pawn exchange here, you can defend that square by the bishop. So White's pieces are 1, 2, 3, and you have 2 pieces protecting there. So that's the basic idea of this bishop to 9i. So from this position, White's strategy can be branched off into roughly 2 types. For one, he can develop his left silver here, and what he's trying to do here is he's going to pull his bishop back to 3a, aiming at this 8f square. Thus, he can win by the numbers that is attacking this square. So he can make a pawn trade here after all. So maybe if we were to see one of the example, let's say Black pushes the rook pawn, silver develops. Now gold to 5h is fine. You can do that now. You're going to see the reason later. And yes, pawn to 5d, gold goes ahead, and bishop 3a. And this is an important move. King to 6i, and silver comes over to 9e, of course. And here, obviously, you can't protect that square by a bishop. you're down by the numbers of the pieces. So instead, you have this tactic, silver to 8h. So what we're doing here is you give up this square, 8f, and instead you have shifted the issue point from here to here, which then you can be up by the number of the pieces, right? So for instance, if white goes ahead, I can just take it, and let's say if silver takes it, it's all right. You can kick him back. So maybe he'll take it with a bishop. So this is why you had to move this king. And of course you can drop a pawn, let him go back. Or more interestingly, you can swing the rook over to 5h, preparing for this powerful attack. So this would be another interesting game, but the main theme of this video is not this opening. What I want to show you in this video is from here, it's not silver to 4b. Instead, here's the most violent opening line in primitive climbing silver, and it's this, pawn to 6d. Now black should be very careful. Obviously white is going to sack this pawn, trying to make you open this bishop's diagonal. And the best move here, the Joseki move, is this, bishop to 6h. You have to protect this square in advance before the silver comes over to 90. And there's a good reason for that. Because, well, let's say you move the silver to 4h, and I said you shouldn't do that. Well, the reason is he tries to open that bishop's diagonal, as I've said, and if you take it, then the silver comes over, and even if you protected that square bishop, it's not going to work because he goes ahead, sack his silver, and then bishop promotes. So it's not good. So basically you can't take that pawn on 6c. So maybe you have to protect there with adding another silver, but well, he might still come over to 90. Bishop defends that square, but he goes ahead. And let's take this pawn too. And for instance, if you take it with the right silver, he can sack his silver to there, right? So definitely what is better in these variations. Silver to 4h is not very good. So how about gold to 5h? Well, it's even worse because the silver comes over, bishop defends there. But well, he goes ahead, sacks his silver, and bishop comes over to 6f, forking the lance and the silver. So it's over, right? So there's nothing that black can do to develop these pieces, okay? So the main line is bishop to 6h. But other than that, do you see this bishop move to 4f, attacking a pawn? It seems pretty interesting, so let's take a look at it in case you're interested. Well, here, he's not going to protect that pawn. And what he does here is he goes ahead, silver 90. Because now the bishop is not protecting this square, so he can just go ahead. Well, so black takes the pawn, attacking this square and simultaneously protecting the 8f square. So it seems pretty good. Well, but white can simply and calmly protect the 5c square with the gold. And white shouldn't do it with the right gold. Instead, he should use the left gold there. And he's going to keep advancing his gold and kick the bishop out of this square. So even if black tries to chase the silver back, the gold comes over. So the bishop has to go back. And he'll make a pawn trade. You see, you can't take the silver. So white is better. And the reason why white should use the left gold is, well, he was the right gold. You can try to make a bishop trade. And let's say he takes it. And he makes a pawn exchange. Well, look at this pawn drop. And a bishop fork. So white should keep the right gold here. Okay. So anyway, the Joseki move here is bishop to 6h, protecting that square in advance. So now what white should do here? Well, if he simply moves the silver there, well, this square is already protected. So why don't we just chase him back this time? Well, he can try an edge attack later, But he has lost 2 moves here, and it might be too late, right? So it's not so bad for black. So he doesn't move the silver to 90 simply, and instead, yes, he makes that pawn sack here. And what black should do here is you should simply accept the sacrifice. That's it. And black's going to play a very effective counterattack. But he'll do that later, not at this position. So for now, black should just let white go with the pawn sack. And then, of course, the silver developed to 90, trying to make the silver sack and bishop promotion to 9i. But this is the position where black should make the counterattack. When you try to make a counterattack, always try to make your opponent develop his pieces as near to your camp as possible, like in this case, silver to 90. So here you're going to see a very good tactic. And you can make that move here because you moved the bishop to 6h in advance, so that you don't have to move the bishop after seeing this silver move. Oh, and before that, extending a pawn to 60 is pretty tempting, but it's not going to do any good for you. He can just protect the 6c square, and this pawn will be taken out later. So you should simply keep the pawn on the 5th rank for now. Oh, by the way, move the silver back to 8h doesn't work this time because pawn exchange here, and you can drop a pawn now. But look at this, he can sack his bishop, so the 8th file is torn down, right? Okay, so now I'm going to show you the black's counterattack. It's this. Pawn to 5e, blocking the bishop. It's very interesting. So, well, he can only take it, right? But then, here you see the reason why you didn't move the gold and the silver. Because you wanted to make its rook to 5h attacking the bishop. Okay, so obviously the bishop has to go back, let's say 4d. And then you have another pawn, right? Which you took from the 6th file. So you drop it to 5e, and black's fine. White can no longer attack the 8th file. While trying to open the bishop diagonal, but this pawn sack is out of question. You can just take it, it's too powerful. So from here, White can only move the king, maybe, so it suddenly turns into a slow game. So I'm going to just show you one example, Mano Castle. So maybe you can just chase the silver back anytime. So, well, it's another equal game, and it's not so easy for black. But at least black managed to stop the primitive climbing silver attack. And this is the reason why I said you shouldn't push this pawn to 60 too early. Because after it turned into a slow game like this, it's going to be easily taken out by the rook, for instance, and you can't protect it. This silver is too far away from the pawn, okay? All right. Now, however, this is not the end of primitive climbing silver strategy, because white has an even more violent option, and you have to learn that too, which is here at this position. After you move the rook over to 5h attacking the bishop, here's white's strongest move. He ignores it. Can you believe that? He ignores it and pushes this pawn. Well, because you cannot take it now, because this promotion is too powerful. So, actually, you have to take the pawn and accept the pawn trade. And now, you can't take the silver, so this is where you take the bishop, but it's one way to go. Silver exchange here, and knight runs from the rook's attack, and rook promotes from the king and the gold. And if you counterattack the dragon, well, this defense is too weak. Let's say lance drop or maybe a pawn drop. So this structure seems to be pretty weak, and this gold is pinned, right? So at this position, you should drop a silver to block. But if you block it to here, well, again, this pawn drop is very powerful. If the gold takes it, I guess the structure is too weak. This silver's pin is too weak. So what is better? I should drop it to 9i. You see, obviously it's better. They're connected to each other. So dragon simply takes a lance. Okay, so this is another critical point. So now the white has taken the lance. Yeah, of course. You see this lance drop in the next move, securing the rook and the king. So you should do something about that. And if the king simply runs, well, then again, a pawn drop. Well, always you have to be careful about this pawn drop. Let's say you don't want to take it with the gold. Let's say bishop runs, lance drop, rook runs, attacking the pawn, but silver drop. So you lose the bishop, and bishop drop here, and black's camp is destroyed. So, what else? Well, one interesting option is this. Rook to 5c promote. Well, this seems very interesting because obviously white can still drop a lance to 5b. But then black plays pawn to 5d. Now white's going to have to take it anyway. So here's the promoted pawn is very powerful. He draws a pawn there, but a lance drop. And let's say he takes it and the gold falls. Maybe he should run. And well, maybe black kings goes to right too. Or if he takes it, maybe this bishop fork, so king 5a, he takes the knight. Something like that. So maybe it's another difficult game. But the best move for black at this position, it's very cool. Now he pushes the pawn up to 60. And if white were to protect it, it's not very good because rook is now very mobile. So the king can just go ahead now, or he can immediately move it now. So anyway, it's good for black. So yeah, he should only drop a lance there, but black's gonna abandon his rook there and promote the pawn. And this pawn promotion is a very great move because it allows black to make this really solid anchor pawn anytime, right? And this promoted pawn is again very powerful. So now what should white do here? And basically there are two options for white. One, rook drop to 9h, and the other is pawn drop to 6g. The better one is rook drop to 9h. So let's see pawn drop to 6g first. Well then, let's say you don't want to take it with the gold, so bishop to 4f. And if silver drop is nothing, you can just go. So it's not a silver drop. But if he drops a rook now, trying to take out the gold, well, it's too late. You can just drop a pawn there, and you're fine. So only thing white can do after bishop 4f is he should make his king safer. But well, black can go ahead too, and maybe black is fine. White king runs, but well, maybe black's better. Or black can simply drop that pawn. White goes ahead. Well, let's chase it. King runs, goes ahead. Maybe a rook fork, but bishop check. If silver blocks it, I can just take it and lance drop, maybe. So he runs. But well, but if you go ahead, this silver drop is not really comfortable for you. So let's say from pawn to 4d, or more interestingly, knight to 6e, making this covered attack. So dragon runs, and knight to 5c unpromote, gold runs. Let's not take it and drop a pawn. And well, lance drop maybe. That's good for black. If he takes it, you're even threatening this knight sack, after which the horse comes over to here, forking the rook and the king. So this variation, pawn drop to 6g variation, is good for black here. So now let's see the primary line. It's rook drop to 9h. Okay, now he's trying to take out the gold in next move. So the best move here is pawn drop to 6i. Yes. Well, by the way, moving the king to 4h is not going to work. He'll drop that pawn here, and here you can only move the bishop this time. But well, he can sack the dragon, has to take with the bishop, and this gold will fall. And you lose that bishop too. So it's not good. So you have to drop a pawn. Okay. So if he drops a pawn too, it will be the same position as you've seen before. And I said this position is good for black. So what he does here is silver dropped 8i attacking the gold, and then you move the gold to 8h attacking the rook. So he makes a 2-piece exchange here, but here comes a very good move. It's rook to 8e. I can only accept the rook trade. So knight recaptures, and look at this. Now the bishop's diagonal is open. Maybe I can only activate this silver, and well, bishop to 8f is of course one option. Well, he might desperately sack this promoted silver and maybe forget and take out this bishop. But I guess it's still good for black. But moreover, the Joseki move here is not bishop to 8f. It's rook to 8b. Because now let's say white takes the bishop now. But after pawn recaptures, what is interesting is now white's king is in a threat mate. You see the mating moves? It's very cool. It's bishop to 3c, sacrifice. And I will take it, and then silver drop. King runs, but double check, and it's checkmate. So this is a threat mate. So, for example, white drops a gold to 7i, attacking the rook. But don't think about saving that rook. You can simply drop a silver there, and he can't take it. And he doesn't have time to take the rook. So maybe he tries a rook check, but it's not going to work. Don't use any piece to block it. So he'll anyway have to drop a pawn here. But still, you're not going to save the rook. You can simply drop a bishop there, and he doesn't have time to take the rook yet. Now he can only sack his gold. The 5e, trying to save the king to this way. So you take it, and gold recaptures. But look at this. You can drop a gold to here, because if he takes it, it's a checkmate. So the king has to run, but then let's take the gold here. And no matter if he runs or he takes it, I can just simply take this gold now. And it's obviously good for black. So hopefully you learned how to deal with white's primitive climbing silver. Hope it helped, and I'll be back with another one real soon.